Welcome to Lake Paulan.
Widespread flooding slammed San Angelo this morning, hitting especially hard on the northeast side.
I've never, ever seen it this flooded, ever in my life.
Because of all the rain, San Angelo and almost all of the Concho Valley under a flood watch through the evening until tomorrow morning. This week, the governor's office activated emergency response resources in case of flooding in central West Texas. Anik Joseph has that story.
Texas Division of Emergency Management on high alert, activating state emergency response resources in anticipation of increased threats of flooding. Wes Rappaport with Emergency Management says they are ready to go if and when they are needed.
It is so important to stay weather aware. You know, it's a great time to travel and spend time with loved ones, but as folks are either traveling away from the Concho Valley or to the Concho Valley or traveling through the Concho Valley, they need to make sure that they are paying attention to what those threats are.
A little bit of moisture from Tropical Storm Flossie that came out of the Pacific, Barry that came out of the Gulf and into Mexico. And that's kind of set the stage for these scattered rounds of showers and thunderstorms across the area.
Which are, according to the National Weather Service, torrential rainfall with the potential to cause flash flooding.
We could be looking at some much heavier rainfall totals, more likely east of the Concho Valley, more toward the Heartland and Hill Country, Brady, Brownwood, maybe the Fredericksburg area. That's something we'll be keeping a very close eye on.
Campers, as well as anyone near low-lying areas or waterways, need to stay vigilant.
And if water starts to come up fast, they're going to have to find a way of getting to some higher ground pretty quick.
Texans encouraged to monitor local forecasts and avoid driving or walking in flooded areas. Make an emergency plan and have an emergency kit handy.
We expect this threat to last at least to Friday afternoon. Once we hit the weekend, we expect that threat to subside, but our main concern is making sure that people are paying attention as we head into the holiday weekend.
In San Angelo, Nick Joseph reporting.
Welcome to Lake Paulan.
Widespread flooding slammed San Angelo this morning, hitting especially hard on the northeast side. The Paulan neighborhood streets were submerged, homes surrounded by rising water. Just down the road, the underpass off Houston Hart near Bell Street completely flooded with more than 10 feet of water pooling inside the freeway. Near downtown, the Irving Street Bridge looked more like a river as raging waters filled the area during the morning downpour. San Angelo police and Texas DPS were busy on the 1500 block of Coberland, helping residents escape floodwaters, including this woman here. But take a look at the street signs around them, overtaken by the floodwaters. Over on Pulliam Street, extreme flooding swept through the area. In one stunning moment, a home could be seen floating away with the current in this photo. Meanwhile, at Brewer and Bell,
look, I told you there was somebody hanging from that pole right there.
A man was rescued after clinging to a pole. The water was so high, the area was barely recognizable this morning.
I've never, ever seen it this flooded, ever in my life.
The San Angelo Police Department is now urging residents to stay home. And if you must travel, turn around, don't drown. Reporting in San Angelo for Concho Valley Homepage, I'm Manny Diaz.
Tragedy struck this morning when SAPD recovered and identified a reported missing person from Friday's floods as 62-year-old Tanya Berwick. Manny Diaz has more from this afternoon's briefing.
In the aftermath of one of San Angelo's most historic floods on July 4th, city and county officials met this afternoon here at City Hall. From discussion regarding cleanup of debris around the city to how to help those in need, one of the key concerns was the missing person on Friday. The woman would later be identified as Tanya Berwick, 62 years old. Furthermore, San Angelo Chief of Police Travis Griffith gave details as to what happened on Friday morning, while providing insight as to how one can remove themselves from a similar situation when involved in a flood.
Every indication to it was that it was related to the flood in a low water area. Last known conversation was during the flooding event. So along Bell Street, it was right in that low water area is where the original last contact is that we knew through our investigation. You can then track from the area of Coke and Lowry is a general vicinity of where she was found. But I can tell you at the peak of the flood, where the vehicle was located, would have been well over 12 feet. And that was substantially further away from where the vehicle had been traveling. The first step is thinking in advance, right? To think, hey, is this worth driving through? And we don't know. I kind of lean towards this being a wall of water, honestly, in this case, but we don't know. We don't know. Be prepared. Having a glass break device inside your vehicle. It can be on a keychain. It could be a actual hammer, break out the window to get out of the car. When you put that in your brain, hey, what am I going to do? I'm going to have this device to get out. I'm going to have this method, and I'm going to swim away from the current as fast as possible. That's imprinting on your brain what you would do in the case of emergency.
Meanwhile, Berwick was described by a family friend as a bright light, a friend to everyone, and with a heart of gold. Reporting from City Hall in San Angelo, for Concho Valley Homepage, I'm Manny Diaz.
And yesterday's floodwater came swiftly. The current so strong it moved structures off their foundations. A San Angelo man and his son watched the structure used as an office wash away into the floodwaters. And Nick Joseph reports.
And then we just saw the house floating off, and we were just kind of shocked, you know, that it floated off.
Flush off its foundation into the road.
My son called me about 5:30 in the morning and told me to look at the cameras inside the shop.
I noticed there was a bunch of water damage, and I just wanted to see how far it was, how far it went, because I noticed that the house was in the middle of the street. So I just decided to record it and just to see what it all looked like up in the air instead of from ground level.
Along with many videos and pictures of that structure once used as an office going viral. Sergeant John Bellini with San Angelo PD and acting PIO for San Angelo Fire sharing the message to stay away.
We don't need people over here trying to take videos or pictures. We're in the middle of rescue operation. You have to come over here. You see the water now is still flowing. That's 10 hours ago.
This structure appearing to have been a home falling victim to the same creek, leaving only the roof and some of its contents in the rubble.
Been here 63 years, and I've never seen nothing like this, especially here.
He says he's still shocked.
So is everybody else around here. They're all cleaning up their shops and stores and everything, so trying to help each other is what we're trying to do. So, that's where we're at right now.
In San Angelo, Nick Joseph reporting.
Chief Travis Griffith here. I just wanted to take a moment to be able to share some footage from our wonderful drone team of the rescues and things that took place on July 4th, 2025. What you're watching right here is a vehicle rescue. This is from the Fort Worth Fire Department. They're part of Texas Task Force 1 Swiftwater Rescue. They responded quickly and were able to assist this motorist who is stranded. There's another gentleman that you can see right here that was also getting out of the high water. This is one of San Angelo police officers that was able to make it to this location to work on trying to get this citizen out of the water. We have blurred the faces of people that have been involved in this just because we want to make sure that we don't put out any information that we shouldn't be. Police officers did this all across San Angelo, as well as firemen were helping get people out of vehicles and out of property. This is the Texas Task Force 1 Swiftwater Rescue again. This is a father and son, a very young son, that is stranded, holding on to a pole. This is a very raw video. We have edited some for time, but again, blurring the faces of those involved as they're working to rescue our citizens. I just can't say enough about how much we appreciate the Fort Worth Fire Department for being able to be here and to be a part of that Texas Task Force 1 to be able to be rapidly deployed. The videos that you're going to see here is just kind of giving an overview of the extensive amount of damage that was seen at this time frame. This is just after the early morning hours. The waters were very high and the extent of damage was significant. This is just one part of the town that was being affected. At the time, we saw extensive flooding going on up north. This is our armored personnel carrier. It's a rescue vehicle we use in case of shootings. We were using it to get through high water and rescue people. This is a rough estimate of the major water flows, not all of it. This is major water flows that we're showing of swift water that was coming through the area. What you're viewing here, you see Houston Hart there up in the upper left hand and Bell Street there in the center upper portion. And we will be speeding this feed up to be able to provide a little better idea of the damage in a more efficient manner. As you can see, this is Pulliam Street that we're starting to cross over, and Bell is up to the mid-left portion. Where many people have seen that picture of the house that was on Pulliam. This is kind of surveying the totality. The waters have come down a little bit at this point. We're just trying to get as much idea of where we could be missing anything, and you can see how Bell Street is completely submerged there. This whole region had people that were stuck in houses and cars, and we were working to make sure that we didn't miss any calls for help. As you can see, this is Prizer here. This was completely underwater, and for a very vast portion of that. As we continue south towards the Bell Street complex, you'll see that how wide and spread the damage is. As we're nearing the last of the populated area right here, we won't continue to show everything further to the south, but just to give you a reference. We will highlight the trailer park here and show you kind of where that is off of St. Anne. And then the Bell Street complex is there in your upper right-hand portion. We saw a pretty significant damage to the trailer park in this area. Some trailers were swept downstream.
You're watching KLST News at Noon.
All right, welcome back. We're here with Brian Groves, Communications Director with the City of San Angelo.
Yes, ma'am.
And we have a lot of information to tell the public, things that they should know after this really, really bad devastation. So what would be the most important thing that people need to know?
Sure. So let's start with the areas that are affected by the flooding event. We have a website that's sanangelo.gov/July 4. We're pushing all of our information to that website, all of our information to our Facebook page. Those are the two places that are the most up-to-date all the time. So if you have questions about what's going on or what do you need to do, we encourage people to go there. And so that is the main area where we have the information. We've talked a lot about debris management, and that's probably the next most important thing for the people in those affected areas. And so we have some graphics on our website that talk about the different sorting and what the city needs those people to do. The landfill is closed right now because of flooding, and so we're asking people to put their debris in front of their yard at the curb or where their trash is normally picked up and to sort it according to that graphic that's online at sanangelo.gov/July 4. And so that's really important. That has to do with documentation on damage and things like that.
Okay, and speaking of documentation, for FEMA relief, what type of documentation do they need? Do they need to take photos? And a lot of the documentation, if they are impacted, I'm sure are ruined, right? So kind of talk about that. What
sure.
Type of
so yeah, take as many photos as you can. There's a link on our website. It's called ISTAT. Governments like to talk in acronyms all the time, but basically what that is it's a personal property form that you file with the Texas Division of Emergency Management. And so we have that link on our website. We've pushed it on social media. If you've been affected, take photos, enter all of your information on there, and you would submit all of that. And that just helps get a wider look for the government on what happened where and what areas were affected, and specifically what residents was affected by these things, and that comes into play when it comes to assistance from the government.
Okay, and so again, who would qualify for that? Do you, even if you think you don't qualify, you should apply, or how does that work?
It would be the residences in those affected areas by the flood. And so if you have questions, we have phone numbers and emails on that webpage as well. You can message us on Facebook, and we can get you in contact with our emergency management office, and they can answer those questions, because it is a lot of information. It can be overwhelming, and so if you have those questions, please let us know. We'll be happy to get you in contact with someone that can answer those for you.
Okay, and what has been the biggest concern? What have you been hearing the most from the public, getting calls into the city?
Well, I think first off, we want to make sure everyone's safe. We want to make sure that everyone is accounted for, everyone is safe. And so if you're in an emergency situation, call 911 first and foremost. The other part of it has to do with debris management, which we just talked about. And so we want to make sure that that's done a certain way. We realize that people probably want to get their stuff and get rid of it, but we need people to put that at the front of their curb or wherever they pick their trash up, so that we can document it. We will have a debris management company that the city is contracting with that will come by and pick all of that stuff up in the coming weeks. But it's very important to follow those rules so that we can make sure we get the proper.
Yeah, I'm thinking that if they follow the rules, it's going to make everything go actually smoother and faster in the long run, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so just real quickly, we have that up on the screen. Sure. Just any last words from the city?
I think the two biggest things I want to add in real quick is trash services. Expect delays citywide. We have information about our trash services on the website. Put your trash on the curb for those days, and there's a lot of information on our website that you can get as well.
All right, that website, sanangelo.gov/July 4th. Thank you so much for that important information. And we'll be right back. We'll have the last look at the 7-day forecast with Jake.
Almost 660 families are getting services after the flooding, and a resource center now set up at Paul Ann Church. About 115 families who are not able to stay in their homes are getting help. Sarah Boyette has more on how organizations and volunteers are assisting.
San Angelo is strong. We are a great community. We are a giving community. We have so many givers, philanthropists, so many people willing to donate their time, their resources, their energy.
After last week's flooding, the cleanup has started, with organizations across the community coming together to help those impacted.
What we're doing in our mobile canteen, I don't know if you've seen it around, it has been stationed nearby the affected areas, and they're serving lunch and dinner. However, now that the waters have receded a little bit more, we will be going into their neighborhoods, because some individuals that were affected might be staying at a motel, might be staying with family, might be staying with them. As they come back, as they clean, we want to meet them, the need where it is.
She says it's not just about giving aid, it's about meeting people's needs in the most practical, compassionate way.
So we want to be there to not cause any more chaos. We want to be there and say, you need a glass of water, here you go. And we're giving it in Jesus Christ's name.
At the Sam's parking lot, Junior League volunteers collected nearly a full truckload of supplies.
People showing up in huge numbers. Thankfully, we're in the Sam's parking lot, and so what people are doing is going in and buying Sam's quantity, toilet paper, paper towels, diapers, wipes, all the things that we're seeing a need for in our community, and then they drop them off at our U-Haul, and we're going to take them to United Way later today.
Much of it is headed to Paul Ann Church, one of the main hubs providing supplies and support to flood survivors. La Esperanza Clinic is also offering help to those who have lost access to medication and care.
A lot of them lost their medication, so just checking the status, if they have refills or not, and just giving them guidance on what they can do to get more medication.
Some volunteers aren't just helping flood victims, they were also impacted by the storm. Kaylin, a practice manager at La Esperanza, lives in one of the hardest hit areas where floodwaters destroyed homes and even carried trailers off their foundations.
It was crazy. It was not something that I really ever imagined to happen here. When you get those alerts on your phone, you just kind of brush it off, but this time it was real.
In the aftermath of the disaster, San Angelo's strength is in its people, coming together to care for one another and rebuild. Reporting in San Angelo, I'm Sarah Boyette.
I've never, ever seen it this flooded, ever in my life.
What comes with a historic flood here in the city of San Angelo comes a historic cleanup. As many here on the northeast side of town today are picking up the pieces, literally. So as cleanup and restoration continues, the city is requiring the use of permitted contractors, and here's why.
Well, first and foremost, our role is to try to protect the citizens by making sure that contractors have registered with us and make sure that they're legitimate contractors. The second thing is for citizens is to really do their research. Check with maybe the local HBA of San Angelo, check with the Better Business Bureau of San Angelo to see if those contractors have any complaints if they're on a list that have been used before in our community.
Meanwhile, Aaron Van Oy of the City Planning and Development Services added what can be done minus a permanent contractor.
If you're on the residential side, you're just trying to get out flooring, you're trying to get your property to dry out, as long as you're not cutting into the structural members or have structural damage, then you don't have to have a demolition permit for that. We do have damage assessment teams out in the field today that are walking neighborhoods, and they'll continue to do that until they get by every residence and commercial shop.
When it comes to cleanup, Bob Frazee of Service Masters by Texas Best does have a few tips, suggestions when it comes to doing it on your own.
Remember what you're dealing with. You're dealing with some really nasty water that's in these homes. I mean, it may not look bad, but it's there. You got to be looking for electrical outlets, things that could potentially shock you, slip hazards. The quicker you can get the water out of it, the quicker it's going to dry. Be patient. I mean, don't get in a hurry. You've got friends, you've got relatives. I'm not saying that you've got to call every professional in town just to get somebody in your house, because everybody's busy.
Now, if you're looking to become a permitted contractor or know someone that is, you can log on to our website, ConchoValleyHomepage.com, for more information. Reporting from the Northeast Side, for Concho Valley Homepage, I'm Manny Diaz.
The July 4th flood didn't just displace families, it left countless pets lost, injured, or without homes. Now, Concho Valley Paws is working around the clock to help. Sarah Boyette has more in tonight's News Connection.
While San Angelo residents face the devastating aftermath of the July 4th flood, animal welfare groups say that they're bracing for a surge. Concho Valley Paws is preparing for an influx of lost pets and owner surrenders, as families forced from their homes face heartbreaking decisions about how to care for their animals.
So right now we're trying to be very proactive, because we know that some 30,000 families were affected, and so with a number that size, we know that there were lots of pets affected too. Not to mention lost and stray animals that had gotten out the night before because of the fireworks at the river. So, July 4th is always kind of a nightmare for people in the animal welfare business, because so many lost pets. And so now we add this historic flooding on top of it. We're anticipating that we're going to see a great need in our community, and so we're trying to be proactive.
To make room, Paws is sending over 75 animals in their care to no-kill shelters in northern states this week. Most are already headed to fosterers and adoptive homes. This makes clear space for new arrivals, including dogs like Lane, who was found in floodwaters with serious injuries.
So one of our fosters actually rescued a dog that was affected by the flood. He was in the floodwaters and he had been badly injured. And our foster called and said, "I've got this dog. I will keep it until we find where he goes, but he's got a broken leg." Well, once we got him into the vet, indeed he has 2 broken legs. We're happy to hear that his prognosis is good, and so we're looking for any owner that may come forward for that pet, and if not, then he'll be available for adoption, but he was a life saved.
Lane surgery is expected to cost around $3,500, and he's just one of many. Paws is now asking for donations to fund vet care, pet deposits, and supplies, plus foster homes to relieve shelter overcrowding. With your News Connection, I'm Sarah Boyette.
Is KLST News at 5.
Welcome back. San Angelo Police Chief Travis Griffith in the studio with us for a few minutes, taking time out to talk to us about what a busy 4 days it's been since Friday, July 4th.
Yes, it has been a crazy time for everybody.
And you all have been so busy working to keep not only everything going, but to keep people informed, I think, about what's going on, and that's what we're going to do now. Let's start with what it was like for you in the police department early before dawn, or as the sun was coming up Friday morning.
Yeah, it really started about 2 a.m. when the rain started, and then at that 4 a.m. mark for us, we started seeing real heavy rain. I got the call at about 6, and in between 6 and 7 in the morning, that there was major flooding going on, and I got dressed and headed out. I think like many of the first responders, when we started getting a fair assessment as the sun started to rise, we started to really see the magnitude of the damage. I remember whenever I was going past the underpass that were there at Bell Street in Houston Heart, and I saw there was a fire truck that was underwater, and then I turned and was able to access Pulliam Street, and I saw there was a house there on Pulliam. I knew that the magnitude was pretty large, so we started working on a unified command between the fire department and the police department to be able to start really addressing this in the most efficient way.
What is it like for you all when sections of town are pretty much impassable? You know, you can get to one area, but you can't get to another. You couldn't get down Bell Street, you couldn't get down Pulliam. You couldn't get around anywhere around the Coliseum. How do you coordinate a response when there's so many areas that are cut off by flooding?
Yeah, so it's frustrating is the best way to put it, because we're all trying to get to these different locations and
for rescues too, with people off the tops of their homes.
Yeah, you don't know who's going to be able to get it from which angle, especially in the dark. You know, as that sun started to rise, it was hard for us to be able to know how will you be able to get through there. So some guys were able to procure boats and get some small rafts. We had some John boat at one part. It's a flat bottom boat. And they were able to try to get some people in there on that. The most difficult, I think, part is that you're frustrated because you know you have people you can't get to. And we were listening to those kind of things as they were going on the radio. There were so many rescues going on at one point during that we don't even really have the number. We know it was somewhere just below 1,000. Sorry, just below 100 is kind of the mark. But we had 990 phone calls in about a 3-4 hour window.
From people who were frightened for their lives.
Yes, needing services or somebody calling about something, and it was just such a massive amount of water so quickly that it was hard to keep up.
Well, now we move forward after a wonderful response by, like you say, emergency responders and volunteers and city and county and state and federal officials. The next step now is these Texas emergency management crews, which will actually be going into neighborhoods with cameras documenting damage.
Yes, ma'am. They've already started that heavy today with volunteers and people from the city. We had a great response with that today. I think they said there was right at 900 people were assessed today, which is a huge number.
Any suggestions for people who still need help or haven't been able to feel like they haven't been able to get assistance?
Yes, so they can go to Paul Ann from 12 to 6 Monday until Friday. So it's going to be going out there, and they can get signed up. So if you need a hotel room, you need to get financial assistance, or you need help getting clothing or any type of cleaning supplies, they generally have that out there. You can go to sanangelo.gov/July 4. Don't add the TH, just July 4, right? And that's going to have all the information that everybody's kind of pouring their information to that website. And there's going to be links on how to clean up, right? Because that's important to make sure that we keep those things separate as we go through.
Trash separate on your lawn, even though you don't like the looks of it.
100%. But that's going to help us with funding. Even if you have a small amount of damage compared to what some people
put it out on the lawn.
Put everything out there, and then also document it. You can go that iStat, or ask somebody if you don't know. Go to that website and we'll explain it. Download an app. You can do it on the website, I believe. Get that information to us, because it's going to help us get that federal funding quicker.
All right, Chief Griffith, nice to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Sure.